I'm told the number one fear people have is speaking in public. It's the one fear I don't have. Join me for the Love Speaks series, where we leave fear behind and we speak love. Loving our story, loving speaking, doing what we love, loving each other, and loving ourselves. Our stories are what connect us and make us better humans. So join me and my Love Speaks friends for some stories, some laughs, some inspiration, some speaker tips, and some unexpected truth. It's the Love Speaks series, where a little bit of love goes a long way.
Welcome to the Love Speaks series. Here's your host, Sally Lou Loveman.
Oh my goodness. So we are here today in the studio with one of my favorite people, champion of women. Love this woman so much.
Mutual
and she's
love.
Wearing a love sweatshirt and a kindness hat, which is what we're speaking today. We are speaking kindness. Speaking of kindness, her hat says, "Kind people are my kinda people." How cute is that? Okay, so my guest is a connection expert who leads with kindness. And that is why we're speaking kindness today on the Love Speaks series. Kathleen is the founder and CEO of Agency H5, a marketing communications agency that is rooted in public relations, where she and her amazing team expertly connect people, events, and ideas to generate meaningful and lasting impact. Kathleen is a brand builder, a storyteller, and is a fierce advocate for protecting kindness in the workplace.
Amen, sister.
Right, because we're supposed to be kind. Your mantra is always lead with kindness, and there is no one who has been more kind to me in the launch of my own business and my own brand than you, Kathleen Sarpy. It is so great to have you here today.
Yes.
And let me just say, she is not just a champion of women. She is a champion of kindness. And she was just named by Crain's Chicago Agency H5 for the third year in a row, one of the best places to work in Chicago, which means kindness wins, right?
Yeah, I'm really honored about that.
How does that feel?
It feels really good. When I started the company, I wanted to do right by the values that it was built on, the foundation.
Right.
And so to be recognized by Crain's, which is a huge, institutional recognition of our city, I guess, it felt really nice to know that we're doing something right when it comes to the way people see us and the way our employees feel.
Well, you're doing everything right, in my opinion.
Oh,
I know
so are
no
you, my
one's
friend.
perfect. Thank you. But you built this business after being in a huge agency job. You are a mother. You were at the time a mother of 5, now a mother of 6, which we'll get to. And you built it out of, you wanted work-life balance. So you decided to be courageous and start something on your own. You started in your basement. And today, how many employees do you have?
We have about 40 people.
40?
Yeah.
And you're in how many square feet?
Too many.
I read 11,000.
11 is my lucky number.
I know it is.
We're on the 11th floor.
Oh, you
11,
are?
mhm.
Did you choose that or did that just happen?
No, I intentionally
Oh, you
chose
did
it.
chose.
I love 11.
Yeah,
well, I
do
looked at
too.
other floors in that building, and then they're like, we have one other floor we want to show you. And it was 11.
Oh,
and I was like, I know.
done.
Done.
Done,
It was like
done,
a
done.
sign. I believe in signs.
I know you do. Kathleen and I have spent some off time together. When I say off time, it's not like we work together, but sometimes I feel like we do. I wish I worked for you. I've always wanted to work for you.
Someday.
So when we collaborate on things,
Yes.
and then we had some off time at this wonderful, wonderful place that is your client, Kohler Spa, and we talked a lot about signs and soul and the universe. So you are definitely a spiritual sister of mine, which I really, 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 really love. I'm very drawn to people with faith. Faith is really important to you. So where does your kindness, where were those seeds planted? I know your parents.
Yeah,
probably
my
have
mom and
some-
dad.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, first, I will say we do have a soul connection, and I notice those connections in my life. They're very evident to me.
Yes.
There are people that come in for reasons and seasons, but there are
Yeah.
soul people that you bond with at a level that's like your heart.
Yeah.
And that has how you and I have always been.
I kind of could get a little weepy, right? Because I just
Me too.
remember, and we're going to get back to your parents, but I remember meeting you for the first time at Harpo when you would bring your clients to the show. Maybe it was Jane Seymour. I don't know that day, but you just came in and I was immediately I don't really remember a publicist ever ever at the Oprah Winfrey Show, but I remember you. And to say that since those days at Heartbow that we were able to maintain not only like a working relationship, but like a real deep friendship, and it just keeps getting better. And I've seen you go through so many beautiful changes in your life post knowing you at the Oprah Winfrey Show, and you've seen me do the same. That doesn't just happen. Like that doesn't just happen. It happens because of what you just said, a soul connection.
Yeah.
I felt that immediately with you.
Me too. And I get that feeling with people that I think God puts on my path. I'm really focused on sort of paying attention. I think a lot of times God gives you signs and you don't see them.
Yeah.
And then you look back and you're like, oh, that makes so much sense. In the case of my soul family, I will tell you that there have been people that have been put on my path well before I knew why.
Right.
Because I've never been about the sort of transactional nature of someone working for the Oprah Winfrey Show and them being cool to me. It was more about the people that I connected with, and there were so many wonderful people that I cared about that worked there. But
so who's in your soul family?
Oh my gosh. I'm so fortunate. You know, you and I are so ADHD that I laugh because like I have so many things to tell you.
We're going to never get through this.
Yeah, because I want to tell you about my parents.
Part two.
Well, I will say that my soul family really would start with my parents because now they've passed away. But when they were here, you know, they really did teach me my values. My values, kindness being one of them, was definitely something that they emulated from the minute I was a little girl. I was the youngest of 4 kids, so I was with them the most.
What did they say that really stayed on your heart? Like any words?
You know, it wasn't.
Or was it actions?
It was in observation. I think as a mother now of 6 kids, I can tell you that I'm hoping my children are observing my behavior and learning who to be as human beings through the way I conduct myself and how I emulate my value system. But my parents, they weren't rule people. It was much more about watching my father walk in anywhere and be kind to people, whether it's at the airport, you know, he was at the red carpet club because he traveled a lot.
Right.
And we'd go and they'd be so nice to my dad because my dad was always so friendly to everyone. He knew people's names. He remembered things about them.
Wow.
He was thoughtful and kind.
And
my mom was very loving.
I will say one thing that's really interesting that I think I've already said this to you. I know I've said this to you, but I'm thinking it in this moment. I am very attractive to people of faith, but I'm super attracted to women who have strong relationships with their fathers. And I remember saying that to you when we were at Kohler, and I remember thinking that because the way you just described your father is my father, although he didn't travel. But
I read that in your book. And I felt a deep connection to you about that.
Yeah.
And how he treated people as a doctor and everywhere he went. Everyone knew him and he knew them.
And he knew them. And that was like, oh, I want to be part of that. Like that really stayed on my heart. And that's for sure, to me, what led me to Oprah, and certainly what led you to telling people stories and being the champion of others as the PR person that you are. And then your mom was there to just be all the lovey-dovey stuff, which is so lovely, like mine. It's very similar. You lost your parents 14 weeks apart.
Yeah.
You've been through some stuff in the last 10 years, I would
That
say.
is putting it lightly.
8 years, I don't know what the count is. For me, mine is 7 years. Yours is right around the same. I've lost my dad, struggled in my marriage. You divorced. You lost both parents within 14 weeks. How did kindness get you through that? Because you still got all these gifts that you can tell us about in a minute, but like in the despair of loss of what you thought your family was going to be, and your parents gone, we're not always so kind to ourselves either. Like, you don't. How did kindness get you through that dark period?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, 4 years of finding out unexpectedly I was going to have to file for divorce due to incredible deception.
Right.
Having to go through sort of the defense of everything I'd built over the course of a 18-year marriage was really hard. Having to protect 5 children at the time from feeling such an unbelievable loss that was so sudden.
Right.
And then once everything with the divorce was final, literally felt like, oh, I'm happy again. I think I posted on Instagram, I'm finally happy. And like that weekend, my dad was sick and he passed away within 3 days.
Well,
and then
maybe he was waiting for you to get there.
Yeah. I always was like, wow, why did I say I was happy? Because then the other shoe dropped.
Right.
But and then 14 weeks later, to the very day, my mom died, and so that immense loss was strangely huge, like blessing, because it taught me a lot about appreciation and gratitude. That's how love speaks to me is like,
well, I was going to say, how's love speaking to you today? That's supposed to be my first question.
Well, gratitude.
Yeah.
I'd say gratitude and like appreciation. I don't know if I had a deep appreciation for the soul family.
Yes.
And that's really, you say, how did kindness get me through that period? I was so afraid to accept kindness from others because I'm much happier being the one on the giving side. I love giving people connections. I love giving people opportunities. I love giving people jobs. I love giving.
What is that though? Why do you struggle with like, oh, if someone's going to be kind to me, it makes you a little nervous or uncomfortable? What I totally understand. I just want to hear like why?
I think, us type A girls are probably pretty controlling.
Yeah.
I like to know what all my scenarios are. You know, I like to mitigate risk as a PR person. I'm always looking at different, ways things could go.
Yeah.
And in my situation, it was so like humbling to have to actually receive help because I was used to always giving it.
Yes.
And there's this great book, The Go-Giver, that, aside from buying your book, everybody better buy Sally Lou's book as her publicist.
Speak, love your story. Your audience is waiting. This is my publicist.
It is available now. Available online right now.
Lovespeaks.com.
It's a great book.
I have become, my joke is that I'm now a talk show guest. Like every time I talk to, in my book, I'm like, every producer listening knows that we roll our eyes as soon as the guest says, in my book. And now I'm the in my book girl.
Anyway, I celebrate you writing a book because I remember you saying that was a dream of yours. And I love women and I love anybody who achieves a dream. But
of course.
But what was the question?
I don't remember. Who knows? Something about kindness.
The Go-Giver. But I was going to say the book, The Go-Giver, was given to me twice during a lot of different parts of my dark season, my Job part of life. And that book, one of the lessons is really that in order for the universe, I love giving, but I have to allow others to give to me in order for the universe to work. And it was a really interesting sort of experiment in letting go and letting people give to me and it being not showing a sign of weakness, but actually being like giving you the blessing of giving to me, just like I would want to give you the blessing.
Like you want to feel that. And I take that into other areas of life. Like if you want to have people in your home and entertain people, be good to them when they have you in their home. Be a good guest. Mm-hmm. Accept invitations. If you want someone to accept an invitation from you, accept their invitation. And just like
you
speakers,
always show up, by the way. And let me just say, everybody, she always shows up. Sally Lou is one of those people that
how about you? I mean,
well, I noticed you showing up for me, and I think that's something that's really important. Women, especially,
I don't know how you look so freaking good, have 6 kids, and your calendar is insane. And you run this huge company and you are part of your work is that you are out doing kind things for people because you are, launching brands and celebrating them and bringing women together. And you're just like, you give back. You're so, philanthropic. And like you commute like an hour away and you come back and you're dressed in hair and makeup, and you don't have a hair and makeup team, right?
No.
Okay.
And you're being very kind.
And you got the wardrobe. And I really think about that. Like, when do you sleep?
Oh, I think that, one, that's really nice and I appreciate it. And it's even weird accepting a compliment because I know, thank you. When people, I tell women this all the time, especially young women, like when someone gives you a compliment, it's a gift.
It's a gift.
Say thank you and receive it. Yeah.
It's literally like cash money.
But I will tell you that, I love my quiet time in the car because it's a chance for me to listen to music, or I'm really obsessed with podcasts.
Right.
I listen. You ask me how I've listened to all of your podcasts. I enjoy them in the car because
I'm so grateful for your commute.
Yeah, I think my commute's a really good transition time for me. But I also tell my kids this: you are the company you keep. I mean, that is important. Important to know. You are the company you keep. So surround yourself with people that are a good reflection of you. And my team, I gotta say it, like, I have a very demanding, cool job that I get to do awesome things with amazing clients, but it takes a village, man, to get this train going. And my colleagues at H5 have been incredibly supportive, loving, and helpful during a lot of change for me. And I bless all those people that have been in my company, those that have left, those that are still there, those that have been with me a long time, those that are there short periods, because I think all the people play a part in the story.
Right.
And teaches you things. And I
Totally.
think there's blessings in the lessons.
Well,
you know?
your team at age 5, as well as your team of people that you collect in your life who don't work with you or for you, I have met. When I worked at Harpo, I never left the building. I didn't have to network. I say with air quotes. I start my business. I suddenly have to be out in the world and networking. And my joke is all roads lead to Kathleen Henson Sarpy.
I was Kathleen Henson for a long time. It's okay to claim that.
Her new name is Sarpy, and I'm having trouble with it.
So
and
lucky.
I'm trying. We're going to get to Chris Sarpy in a second. The gift of all. And you collect, and I don't say that. You attract. I think that's a better word. The most incredible, dynamic, cool, interesting women. I have met so many through you, and they've lifted me, and it's just like, oh, we're all here together. Oh, because of Kathleen, right? It's all roads lead to Kathleen. And so that in and of itself is kindness. And you have this thing that you do called the conversation, where you gather women together to sit with Tara Cooper. And now you gather people together, just women together, just to talk, not to exchange business cards, not for anything, but to meet. And what a wonderful, beautiful, giving thing to do, to maybe, be in coordination with your clients, whoever they may be, but bringing people together in community. There is nothing greater, because that's what we're all looking for, to be in community with people who are kind. And that's what you do.
Well, that's awfully nice. I would say that, genuine and authentic connection is rare unless you create a forum for it. Networking, I try to stay away from, but I found that through just being someone that's open to, I would rather have like a very transformational conversation with a stranger and never see them again and made a difference in their life, than to just chat about the weather. It makes me it's a funny fear of mine. I hate small talk. I love deep talk.
Right.
And so the blessing, I think, that has happened in my sort of natural gifts as a connector and talker, and I was a little girl, I was always really chatty. Surprise.
I was going to ask, what was your talent as a little girl?
I was always, in my report card, it was always me talking and impulse control. Shocking. It's turned out to be great for risk taking as an employer and as a business owner.
Exactly.
But also in chatting up people, but in a more meaningful way. I was never afraid of adults, so I could talk to anybody. And my dad and mom would take me on these business trips when I was little, from 7 to 22. So I learned
What did your dad do?
He worked as a labor relations negotiator for Keebler. So he worked with union, like
with the elves?
Mm-hmm. He was the biggest elf. He was 6'6".
Oh my!
And then my mom was a nursery nurse, and she was a baby nurse. So so on the weekends, my dad would take me to visit mom at the hospital, Elmhurst Hospital here. And
are we gonna have a hospital moment here?
Yeah, I
like
know.
Mine?
Yes, I know. It's kind of a weird synergy we both have. I wanted to tell you this. Yeah. So my mom was a nursery nurse, and so to see my mom holding babies in the window, and I always loved hospital food. It was so glamorous. Probably why I represent so many great restaurants now is that the hospital food,
Do you like
the variety,
food too?
No, but the variety of food at a hospital cafeteria to a 8-year-old was mind blowing to have different options.
So funny.
And so the babies and my dad being friendly with everyone is how I think, one, I wanted to be a mother.
Yes.
And I love babies, especially newborns. I'm a baby magnet. My husband laughs at me because I literally stop any mom and talk to their baby. And I'm that lady.
Listen, I think that is a huge, first of all, there's so many layers of beauty. I can't speak. Beautiful moments in what you just said. But if nothing else, anyone listening, if you're struggling with, how do I be more kind? Talk to strangers, talk to people, just connect with people. Of course, we want you to talk to the people that you love, but the idea, I talk to strangers all the time. I make plane friends. I make airport friends. I make Starbucks friends. I make friends everywhere I go. And some of them I actually keep. Like, it's not just a pass by thing. It's interesting. And I think obviously you're just describing that moment as your 8-year-old self, feeling that power of, I want to be holding babies too one day. And you also want to connect with people. And that's like, as a mother running your PR firm, that's what you're doing. Yeah. Like, that's what you do.
Yeah, that's
all
why
of your senses.
I bring my kids on the ride with me because I want them to see me in real life, just like my parents showed me real life in theirs. And so it's sort of, you absorb it. You're a sponge, I think, for life if you have those eyes, if you have that lens. But my parents were pretty exceptional people, and I was really fortunate. And because of all the time I spent with them, and I made an investment, I think, as an adult to be close to them because I wanted to be in their life and have the benefit of them teaching me. I needed my parents. I think I needed my parents to get through all those hard things that I was going to go through that I didn't know, because divorce isn't a big thing in my family. So there's a lot of shame in me and feeling like I failed something that I believe to be so holy.
Yeah.
But I think that I wouldn't change a single thing because it gave me those 5 incredible children that I had with my former husband. And what it ended up doing was giving me such a blessing, because now I understand the difference of what a really beautiful marriage is like and what a really beautiful relationship should feel like.
So enter Chris. Let's hear the Chris story.
The short, abridged version of the story is that, again, I do believe God puts people on your path for a reason. And there was someone who was, in Wheaton that knew of me, and we connected, and someone had connected us. And I was going through my divorce, so I wasn't really in a place of like wanting to network, back to me, small talk, right? I was trying to just manage my damage control of my life at the time. It was not good. I had my basement flooded 3 times. I had a tree root in my sump pump. My car got stolen out of my driveway.
What?
I got shingles in my eye from the stress. I mean, it was like my puppy passed
I had
away.
Shingles too. Oh.
We had so much going on that was
and then
so
you got
bad.
Hope.
And then I got Hope. Our puppy Hope, that was an impulse buy. That was 6 days after I filed for divorce, and we love her so much.
And that's the kind of impulse that you're talking about. You had impulse control.
Yeah.
That's good impulse.
I bought a really cute bulldog because they were like, you can only hold her if you are going to buy her. And I was like, is that so?
Right.
All right, then I'm going to buy her.
Here you go. Here's my credit card.
6 days into divorce, I on my Amex just bought a dog. There you go. Great idea.
I remember it so well because when I saw her name, I was like, yes.
Well, we needed Hope.
Yeah. And I named my rescue doggie Grace because I needed a lot of grace at the time.
And that was the puppy we had, Grace, who passed away, but she was Hope. Right. We had Hope and Grace.
Maybe I got that from you. Who knows?
God put Hope and Grace as little bookends. But so the Chris story is, this woman said, my third cousin in Texas.
Third cousin in Texas.
You guys would be great together. And I kind of just disregarded it because dating in Texas didn't seem even feasible when I was unable to even manage my life in Wheaton, Illinois, and Chicago.
Right.
So, that maybe was dismissed 30 times. And so, by the time God wanted me to meet Chris, I was asked to show up for a quick hello because Chris was in town.
So he came here. Right?
Yeah, he was just in town for that moment. And it was like I had called her and said, I forgot something in Wheaton. So it was very fortunate that she was like, just stop by. And I said no 3 times. So finally, when I went in, I was like a hot mess. I came blowing in. So Chris always says, you blew in hard because I just walked in completely dismissive. Like, I'm going to just say hello to this friend and be on my way.
I love that way of thinking.
Yeah, well.
It's winging it. And sometimes we have to wing shit.
You know what's funny about that, though, is that I really was told by multiple people to have hope that someday I would have a beautiful relationship. And I was pretty much confident I never would ever get married again based on the outcome of how it had gone for me. So that was the last thing on my mind. And so when I walked in and I met Chris, I actually just felt his energy was so beautiful and peaceful and kind. It was unsettling to me. And I do things like this all the time, but I was so rattled. I couldn't even act cool when I left. And
you were probably like, wait, do I even have lip gloss on? Because this guy's a catch.
Well, I wasn't even
feeling him.
Well, funny enough, I wasn't looking at his physical attributes at all. I actually couldn't even remember his name when we left. I just remember how he made me feel.
I've had that feeling before.
It felt really purposeful and intentional. And he was listening to me. Yeah. And that feeling was something I'd never felt before. And it was special. And so when I got back, I told my colleague, Jenny, I'm like, I think I just met my husband. And she was like, what? And sure enough, flash forward now, I'm very, very happy to say.
So that was the quick meeting.
We had a meet cute, as they say.
Well, it wasn't necessarily a meet cute because you were actually destined to, you were put together.
It was destiny. But I missed him. My soul felt like it was a weird sensation. I ached when I walked away from him. I'm I miss
don't
him.
even
How do
know
I,
him.
I don't know this guy, but I miss him already. And
Did he come to you before your dad died or after?
6 months after both of my parents died.
6 months
So I
after.
always
Oh,
say
that's a gift.
it was a divine intervention, a
Okay.
match made in heaven, literally by Tom and Shirley. And they were married, my parents, for 64
And his
years.
name is Chris. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
So he's like the best. And so, my parents, I think, just sent him when it was time for me to be able to take care of someone else. And at the same time, I needed taken care of. And what a wonderful gift it was to
Wow.
meet Chris. And he has been the most incredible father to all of
To
our
your
6.
5 and now 6.
Yeah.
His own.
So funny side story is I always wanted 6 children.
Right.
And Finley was gigantic and the hardest to
Your
birth.
5th.
Yeah. I thought it would be like, I could like pop him out during a conference call and be able to get back to work. And
Knowing you could.
no, he was a tough one. And the doctor said, you're very fortunate. You've given birth to 5 healthy children. You're done.
Done.
And I
Right.
had not that mindset. I thought, I might have 6. I know
Right.
that sounds crazy to some people,
Right.
but I hadn't given up on the 6th
Hey,
child.
you grew up watching your mom hold babies,
Right.
many babies.
Right. And I like multitasking. And
Yeah.
children are amazing gifts, and they're like a present you open up every day. So
Every day.
I was really sad when the doctor said no more, or you could die, or the baby could die. Just it's too risky. Finley he had the cord wrapped around his neck 4 times.
Gosh.
So I was done.
Finley has asthma. I'm
Yeah,
always
little-
praying for Finley when he has his asthma attacks.
I know, little Finny. But
Oh, he's
Finny,
so cute.
Finny the finale, and my little redhead. So
Oh.
what a blessing. And so I was done. So for God to give me a 6th child through
Oh, that's
Dylan,
very
who is the
cool.
same age as Brady, and they're so tight. All of the kids are thick as thieves, and
Yeah.
Chris is a wonderful father to them. So it's been a really cool
That's
evolution. We're the
so
modern
cool.
day Brady Bunch, as they
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. That's so cool. You have the 6 kids. That's so cool.
And I love them all just the same. And Chris loves my 5 just as Dylan. It's
And
like
I'm sure he has very
amazing.
individual, different relationships with each because
Yeah.
some of them are home, some of them are not home. Your kids, some of them are grown.
2 in college,
right.
yeah.
So that's very cool. Very, very cool. Well, it's a happy ending because along the way, you didn't. I've known you and I knew you through the process, and I never felt any kind of like, oh, this is going to really keep her down. I only felt that you were just going to say, this will never keep me down, and I will always keep love in my heart, and I will always be kind. And I think that we have to remind ourselves that when shit hits the fan, find a way out, whether it's your faith, whether it's your community, whether it's writing a book or writing a book that you only write for yourself, whether it's doing stand-up comedy, some sort of outlet where you can let the pain be real and then release it.
Agree.
I feel like you did that so beautifully.
Oh, thanks. I wasn't, obviously, there was no roadmap to surviving the amount of loss we went through. Financial loss, like emotional loss of hope, dreams of the future. But I will tell you, I have gotten more beauty from the ashes of my life.
Of course.
It's been an incredible lesson of like, through resilience comes this strength and this like ability to not worry.
Do you ever, sorry,
No,
do you
it's
ever
okay.
cry because you're so proud of your faith?
I will say, I don't know if I cry over how proud I am of my faith. I think I have a lot of humility in my faith, but I think it was a time where I had to release everything to God because I knew that I couldn't humanly do it. And the amount I was being put on anyone, if they didn't have faith, I don't know if anyone could have survived it.
Yeah.
The only thing that kept me alive at one point were my 5 children because I
Yeah.
just couldn't leave them
Yeah.
without a parent.
Right.
But I felt like I wanted to give up because I was so deeply underwater. And yet, wow, I came above water and I now understand the view underneath. And I'm
Yes.
also able to better understand how to float. I think a lot of times I was struggling,
yeah,
and
that's
now
beautiful.
I'm able to look up into the sky and appreciate the view, and I'm
Right.
floating because
And
God.
think about what those kids, all of your kids must just look at you with, I'm sure they aren't able to articulate it yet, and they will when they are parents, obviously.
I'm proud of
But
them though.
they are genius people. I mean, they are just beautiful, wonderful people. I know them all through Instagram intimately.
They're famous through my Instagram.
But I have met them. I was at your wedding, and
Yeah.
it's just, I look at my kids, and my story is different than yours, although I went through a deception and some bad stuff, and we're working it out. And most people don't, whatever. The statistics, divorce is always a very good option because it is sometimes the best option.
I'd say if you can work on it, marriage is supposed to be hard.
It is
You're
hard.
supposed to evolve.
It is hard. But when you know the universal truth about, I think what I have to say is, and I think you would say the same, you always know when a relationship is worth fighting for and when it's not. And mine, to me, is worth fighting for because I see
respect that.
what it is. I get it. I understand it. It's not fun sometimes, but I know that we can work and make it better. And the ashes, man, has it helped us grow. I mean, we were at our energy healer yesterday, my husband and I, and he looks at me, he's like, I love you so much. Like, I'm like, I feel that. Like, anyone can say I love you, but the feeling I felt, and he has some pain he's got to get through, and certainly I do, but his is harder. Mine is like, okay, I get it. This is it. Name it. Go on. Done. His is very different. And so as I'm watching that process, as the wife, it's hard, but I know it's worth it. And for anyone listening, if you're in pain, if you're in a relationship, you know when it's worth the work and you know when it's not. But my kids, they wear scars. They're better for it.
Yeah. I'd say my children, I watched the resilience that they built, in observing what we've all gone through together, that they're better prepared than I would have been at their age. So I'm glad in a way they got that lesson earlier than I did at 45 when I started mine.
Yeah.
But Chris and I made an agreement early on in our relationship that we were going to always think the best of each other, not immediately think the worst when something was off, right?
Yeah.
And I do think that has made my lens being shifted to always look for the best in him, not the worst in him, and vice versa.
Right.
Has been a really good practice. And I found that good transformational relationships, which are the ones I invest in, like ones like you, other friends that I have that are incredibly important to me, like Carol Burnick and others. Transformational relationships are one where you can be your authentic self with someone, not always be right, and be able to admit that you are wrong, and they love you more for it. So I think a lot of times we put our best selves forward. Chris met me in my least best self. A lot of my best friends are the ones that saw me at my worst, and they loved me despite it, and love me now at my happiest. And I want to be around people that are happy for me in both the good times, but and the bad times, not just like, oh, I'm going to be your friend when things really suck. But when she's happy, I'm going to be like, well, she doesn't deserve it. There's people
or
that
vice versa.
Don't cheer for you when you're happy. And I think we should all cheer for each other, both in the good times and the bad times.
Yeah. When my life got messy, I lost some friends over it, and it really hurts. It's hard.
It's very painful.
I'm like, wait, this is when you're supposed to be next to me, holding my hand, getting me through it.
Sometimes it's too uncomfortable for people to see pain.
Yeah. And that's okay. I get it. I write a whole chapter on,
I know.
Do you love or like me? Like, do you really like me? I mean, that's like a whole culture that we live in to begin with, no matter what our age is. But throw midlife and some shit in, and then it's really hard. You liked me when I worked for Oprah.
Right.
But do you like me now?
Right.
Those are the real burning questions. And we find that to be true. These are questions we talked about in middle school, and we're still talking about it as midlifers. It doesn't go away. We want people as humans to like us. And for anyone that is trying to get someone to like them, whether it's a relationship, a job, a friendship, and it's not common to you, move on.
Reason or a season,
tried.
The garden of life. I really say that the relationships I've had over all of my life, it's like a beautiful garden. Some bloom in different, seasons at different times, and I enjoy their beauty. Others are always there every single. You're getting. Someone called it my own personal summer. That's what some people.
I'm having a menopausal sweat talking about midlife. Taking off my clothes.
I love it. You look beautiful.
Reason or a season.
But yeah, there are people for a reason or a season in your life, and it's okay to bless those that are part of your life for just one part of it.
I'm working on that.
I had to get there because it hurts when you are good to people and they're not good back. But I've now become much more appreciative.
Yes, and what I've learned is that even when you are good to people, they have a story too. So I'm not used to that.
Their pain too, and sometimes you have to give people empathy.
Yes, give them grace. Like, I get that now. Like, I'm not used to being in a relationship that's not a two-way street, but like, if it's not, they have a story too, and their story is as important as yours. The other thing, my sister, Cindy, who recently said this to me, and I was so grateful. This is not about friendship. This is about someone in my professional life that I really thought would always be my cheerleader. And she said, you know what? So in other words, I'm not talking about you.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah. She said, maybe it's just going to be a mystery. you know what? You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to know the why. You don't need to know why. It is what it is. Your feeling is probably very true. You don't know the story. You just leave it as it's a mystery. It will never be solved, and let it go. And I was like, oh, I've never thought of that before.
I think we focus a lot on the people that don't like us. In at least my previous life, I probably 5 or 6 years ago would have been in agony or in angst around somebody dismissing my love, right?
Yes.
But now I've really become much more reflective. Like, I really appreciate no matter who's been in my life, good or bad, even my ex-husband for that matter, I'm grateful. I actually was in front of the judge. I said, thank you at my divorce. He looked at me like I was nut job because I was like, I want to thank my ex-husband after this horrible process. But I wanted to thank him for those kids. And I think even people that aren't who you think they are or aren't loving to you, they actually shape and refine you to appreciate those that my eyes got so much wider to those that were good to me in my life. And I want to say one thing because we are so ADHD. When you were talking about like, you don't know where people are or you know, where their context is. When I was going through probably my worst season, you know, it's not like you put I absolutely didn't want to put a press release out about my horror going on. I was running a business. I had employees. I didn't want my whole personal life on display.
I wanted to talk to you about that. Yeah.
But when people were loving to me and just a kind smile, they may not even known me, right? Like at a Starbucks or at the hospital when my parents were sick. Those kind eyes or that gentle smile or someone saying they got my coffee at Starbucks. It was so unbelievably like touching to me that now I've made it a practice of just trying to do nice things for other people. You don't need credit for it. It's just a way the universe should work, back to giving and receiving. It's nice to just give to people because it makes them feel so good. Like the world isn't always a bad place. And when you're going through awful things,
it's a connection.
It's very easy to do, to be loving.
I couldn't agree with you
free.
more. It costs nothing.
It costs nothing to be kind.
It literally costs nothing. And there's so many things that just happened. Okay. I'm trying to keep track, but one, be kind to yourself. I was going to ask you, like, what can people do to be more kind? They can smile at anyone passing them by. You have no idea what your smile, how that lands in someone's heart. Totally.
A compliment to someone.
Compliments are cash. Totally. But the thing that I think is so interesting to me, that's like a little bit of a light bulb moment for me, is that when you are kind to yourself, you gave yourself grace going through this hard time in your life. You put kindness on yourself by surrounding yourself with the right people who had your back and doing things for yourself that made you grow. You thanked your ex-husband in court. That is being kind. And that kindness just multiplies and is momentum to more kindness in the world. It's a ripple effect. And so I would say, hey, kindness starts with being kind to yourself, right?
Yeah, I would say the hardest lesson for me was that lesson of being kind to myself, because it's easier in my nature to be kind to other people. So kind to your kids, you're kind to my parents, kind to my employees. But when it was like time to like actually love me and like accept my flaws, or that my body in my 40s wasn't the same body that it would have been in my 20s when I was dating, right? Those things that you don't really think about unless you're going through something like that.
Right.
I have noticed that was the last lesson I learned, was the appreciate who you are today. Right. So I've gotten better at being like, okay, not getting everything done, not beating myself up if I don't get to everything.
An event.
Yeah. You know, I give myself a lot more grace, but I also, I like the version of me now much better than the version of who I was maybe when you met me because I'm much more authentic and much more genuine in my purpose. And
okay. I didn't mean me too, I like you better. I meant me too, I like myself better.
I was like, oh, wow, thanks for that one. No, I knew what you meant. I think I like who I am now today because I have some bumps and scars along the way. And I think there's beauty in
grit.
Yeah, grit and grace.
Grit and grace, Cheryl.
But yeah, I think we all have to give each other that permission to be, I think, okay with who we are at our current state. And it's not like I'll ever be the 28-year-old version.
You had it.
I had it.
It's like great sex. You loved it.
But Chris loves the 48-year-old version of me and thinks that I'm great right where I'm at, which is really nice. And I have a better time now looking in the mirror and modeling to my daughters too, that you don't have to like be perfect.
And I'm 58, so I'm a year, 10 years older than you. And I will tell you, at 48, I was a freaking fox. I'm just saying that because
Well,
I look back and I'm
you're
like,
a fox at 58,
I'm like,
baby.
well, this is the thing. My friend Pamela Sage, I always say the great Sage, said to me a long time ago, she said, when you look at the picture of you right now that you're taking, in 10 years, you'll be like, oh, it's so pretty. So stop complaining about yourself.
Yeah.
Say you're pretty now. Accept a compliment and all that stuff. And it's true. Like I'm looking at you, 48. Oh, I loved 48 so much. And so if we all know that in this moment at 38, 48, 58, 68, wherever you are, in 10 years, you're going to want that where you are right now. So just say, I am grateful. I look amazing. I'm doing the best that I can. And I have in a body that is abled. And so there you go.
Well, especially seeing a lot of the health challenges of my parents. I'm just, and I just celebrated my Uncle Bill's 90th. He married me and Chris, and he also had baptized all of my children. And to see a man who's 90 and he's just such an amazing sort of example of grace as well, just in godliness. So I am just grateful to have a body that has birthed 5 children. I'm blessed that I have 6 kids now. And I'm actually grateful for the stretch marks and the extra pounds and the wrinkles, because it's a proof that I lived so far a pretty resilient life and I'm still standing. I actually have a tattoo on my foot that I got, and I'm not a big tattoo person, but I got a tattoo on my foot that says Psalm 46:5.
Right.
And that means God is within her, she will not fall. And I was 46 when my divorce happened, and I had 5 kids out of that marriage. And that was a meditation that I really had to live on when I was clinging to hope and faith. And I'm still standing, so I feel like a little battered and bruised, but I'm actually much more grateful. And the stuff in life matters so much less to me than it did. The awards, as much as I appreciate them, mean like less about my value. My value is being a mother, a wife, a friend. Yeah. And I think the best thing is God gave me a pretty interesting story. Chris and I joke about the 1% life. I always have the best 1% and the most worst 1% happening to me. That may be my book title someday is the 1% life. Right. Because it's always those really big swing moments, my Forrest Gump life that I seem to have, that I can teach people, they'll survive it too.
Yeah.
Like survival.
Right. And I love having any kind of memory, like a reminder that you're still standing. And so I say, get your tattoo wherever you want. I got one. You got one. It is a reminder to stay strong. I want to ask you a quick question. Your 5 core pillar values at Agency H5, when you rebranded, you picked 5, you named it H5. Was it an homage to your children?
Well, so the story really briefly is that Rich Melman, who was a client long ago, had told me be very intentional about the people you surround yourself with at your company. So back to you are the company you keep. I really, really valued that advice as a mentor. And so I picked what I stood for and I articulated it in sort of my mission. So when I rebranded from Henson Consulting to Agency H5, I definitely wanted to keep the continuity of H. So that's for human and happy. I wanted people that worked for me to be human and happy. But the 5 stood for kindness, creativity, passion, hustle, and integrity, because I believe you have to, lead with kindness in everything you do. Right. You got to care about the clients you work with and the people you work with. So you have to feel a deep passion. You got to always think creatively, because no matter what happens, it never happens as planned in life and at work.
Totally.
You have to have integrity and tell the truth and be transparent in the way you operate. Right. I went out of order. And hustle. Well, I think that, I'm just a person that likes to get a lot done.
A hustle.
And I, so keep a little H in the hustle too. But hustle is something that I've always, don't let grass grow, right?
Yeah,
like there's a lot. Yeah. If there's a lot, people ask me all the time, how do you do it? Because I always have so much to do and so many kids.
That's I'm always like, and you look good.
But the reality is you just get done what you can and not be too hard on yourself. But hustle, don't be slow about it. I have a lot I got to get done. So I try to just get it done fast and do it well.
I love the hustle. You lead with kindness. That is your brand. That is your mantra. I have worked for many people. Most of my bosses have been amazing, great mentors. Some have led with fear. They did not lead with kindness. And so when I became a boss, I also was raised by the man, the father, the mother, who I write about, who would never lead with fear. And I found that fear doesn't motivate anyone. It just makes you sick. It makes you really maybe achieve some things, but not in a good way. So I always led with kindness. I always wanted my employees, or not my employees, but the people that reported to me, know that even when they made a mistake, they're human and we would
Right.
work it out. Or, they got something in their life that they need help with. Okay, what do you need? Or I want to do more. I want to spread my wings. How can we get you there? What if you could talk to the leaders who are leading with fear, what would you tell them?
Well, I think we've all had people that we've worked with, or clients or bosses, that have been not as nice as we wished they would have been. I actually made a point of that being important to me when I was a leader, that I would be kind to those that were reporting to me, because it's an awful thing to go home from work
It's
and just feel
awful.
sick and like you can't sleep because you're dreading work or dreading
Right.
that interaction with that person. So I would tell leaders that are trying to instill fear in their teams, or or clients that are instilling fear in their agencies, for that matter, that when you feel a deep sense of connection with someone, you get more done.
Right.
And fear just will just minimize the transact. It just makes it transactional. And I keep saying this over and over, but impact and transformation for me has been an important sort of evolution in who I am.
Yeah.
My purpose driven life now is around using whatever example I can in the situation to teach somebody that it's not the first time I've seen it, or once you're in your 40s, 50s, you've been
Yeah.
through the
Yeah.
ringer a few times,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Life is a little rocky, and fear doesn't make the best. It might work in the short term, but it
Right.
definitely hurts relationships.
It
And if
does.
you are willing to allow people to fail, now, granted, if someone fails 10 times, that's a different
different.
situation, but you don't need to instill fear in someone in order to get what you want. And in
Yeah.
fact, if you are a witness of, let's do it together.
Yeah.
Let me show you. If you are afraid because you don't know what you're doing, tell me,
Right.
and I'll
And
help.
we teach
I'll
you.
teach you,
Right.
and then let's try it again. But
Right.
that's the same thing for parenting. I mean, my children, goodness, they've made mistakes just like I did, and it's an interesting dynamic to be someone who's made the mistake and then have to parent that mistake. I
It's
mean,
very hard.
Haley, my
We're
daughter, will tell you,
humans.
I'm literally raising myself with Haley, and she's amazing.
She's so
She
cute.
is a bright, amazing spirit. But it's an example of just like, I don't want my children afraid of me. I want them to know
Right.
no matter what, I'm always there for
Right.
them. And that's how I've been with my friends, and that's how
Yeah.
I've been with my children and my employees
I
too.
think when you lead with fear, it's all about a pain that you haven't resolved. And so
I
I would
agree.
say that if
It's about
anyone,
the boss.
yeah, if anyone is leading with fear, stop it. Just it doesn't work.
Go to therapy.
Go to therapy,
Talk to
figure
someone
out your
about it.
pain, figure out what's troubling you, and welcome in a whole new world of kindness. I will say to you, because I have to share the story. Okay, so it's the 25th season. We are taping the 2 shows at the United Center. I'm telling you the story like you don't know it. I'm telling the listeners because you know the story. So we're doing our surprise spectacular at the United Center, and everything's happening so fast. There's so many challenges. There were 200 seats that were covered by a wall. We're trying to reticket those, and 4 hours of people coming in. And all of a sudden, I look at my teammate, Dana, and I'm like, Dana, we need Kathleen Henson. I need her as a seat filler tonight, because we were moving people in and out of that front row where Oprah would sit. And I just looked at her like I was some diva-ass boss. And I was like, we need Kathleen Henson here tonight. Go get her. Call her right now. Now, Kathleen, I had known you from the Oprah show, bringing guests in, and I didn't know you. Wasn't at your place of business. When we were at the Oprah show, it was like all we knew was the show. So I should speak for myself. I wasn't thinking about what you did. I just knew I needed you. So this is how I ran my life back then. A little bit more obviously have figured things out, that people have busy lives outside the Oprah Winfrey show. And so there you were. I don't know what you put off your calendar that day, but you arrived, you were beautiful. You just said, I'm ready. I'm here. And you were Oprah's seat filler for the night. You sat next to, tell me.
Well, I have to back up and
Okay.
say that I did not know what my role was that night. So I was just told, come camera ready. So
Yes.
I went to Nordstrom and I got some clothes.
Yeah.
I went and got my hair blown out.
Because
I
you
told
live
my
in
office.
Wheaton. You had to
I
go
was in the
shopping.
city, but I was like, so I didn't have anywhere to go to get the clothes. So I just bought some nice excuse to buy
Thank
some
you.
clothes.
Right.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I still have that shirt, yellow.
Yes.
And I just remember getting to the United Center, and being a little bit like, where are they leading me? And someone's like, Kathleen's here. And I'm walked further and further towards the stage. And I'm getting more and more confused because people are looking at me like I'm a celebrity. Like, who's this lady? And you show up with your Oprah sparkly rhinestone shirt with your headset on. You had your clipboard. You were in your clipboard moment. And you were like, glad you're here. And then you just left. And I'm like, what am I here for? And I see them rip an OW sheet off the seat. And I'm like, oh, and then it dawned on me. I'm like, oh, I'm sitting in Oprah's chair. Right. So who did I sit next to? Oh, I sat next to Tyler Perry, Gail Stedman, Tom Cruise, Maria Shriver I talked to, Diane Sawyer, who has the very best legs I've ever seen, ever, like amazing. And then Jerry Seinfeld, and I have a great story about that.
I want to hear it.
They snuck him in because he was surprising her.
Yeah.
And he's crouched in his tuxedo and he sits down next to me. And, I can't resist myself. I look at him and I go, come here often. And he laughed. And I was like so proud of myself that I made Jerry Seinfeld laugh. And then I think I tried to say something else funny. And he kind of was like, all right, one's enough. You got my one chuckle. And I was like, all right, I don't want to push my luck with Jerry. But it was really a fun night. And and Beyonce performed.
Yes, she did.
Morehouse students. It was amazing. That was an amazing night. But I was happy for Oprah that she got that celebration.
Was beautiful. It was one of the most beautiful nights of my life.
Yeah, and you guys did a great job.
To watch her be so loved and
appreciated.
Those Morehouse men brought the Rickman and Kristen Chenoweth and all of it. Even Michael Jordan, just all of it. It was just such a great night. And the point of my story is this. I called you not knowing of the importance of your day and your work. And I just said, be there. And you showed up ready, helpful, happy. And you're like, how can I help you? Even though you obviously didn't know what you were doing. But you were an Oprah seat filler. So I say thank you to that. Thank you.
I don't know if Oprah and I know each other yet. So someday I hope that when I see Oprah, I can tell her I was her seat filler. That would be a really fun fact to tell her.
It is your fun fact.
With her for sure. But, Carol Burnett, who I told you is a good friend of mine, she tells the wisdom in her book.
Former CEO of Alberto Culver.
Correct.
I say it wrong every time.
She has an amazing
Alberto Culver
charity called Enchanted Backpack and an amazing book herself, Gather As You Go. And what I'll tell you about in that book, she says, show up with your feet. I love that advice.
Oh, I like that.
So I guess I showed up with my feet, which means people that are important to you, you show up not with just your words, but with your feet. Yeah. And I thought that was a really beautiful way. I think that was her dad's.
Pretty.
I think that was her dad's advice, actually.
You do show up with your feet.
And she loved her dad just like you and I loved ours. And when you're blessed with great parents, they teach you great lessons. And I think it's part of our job as mothers, especially, to share the lessons, not just with our children, but with our employees, with our colleagues, our friends.
Let me just tell you this. Writing my book was a gift to my children. If 4 people read it, I'll be fine. Mm-hmm. And it was a gift to me. I mean, especially with loss. Like, I felt like my dad was sitting next to me the whole way. I didn't want to stop writing because it was like you write about someone and they are sitting next to you. I got, my grandparents came back into my life, all of it. So I'm sure you talk to your parents daily.
I do.
If you write about them, whether it's a book or a journal or a letter, just watch them just sitting next to you all day long.
I would give the advice to people who lose people they love that by talking about them and writing about them, which I hope to do someday.
You will.
I will. I'm going to write a book. I have that in my heart. I'm going to manifest that. My therapist, Lucia, says I manifest better than anyone she knows.
You do.
I'm going to manifest a lot of things in this new chapter of my life.
Let me tell you something. I told my therapist I was going to write a book. And when she called me to say, I am so proud of you. You did it. I don't think there was any. I was sobbing.
Yeah, I was sobbing. You bawled your eyeball. Yeah, you bawled your eyeballs. I talk about my parents every day to Chris because he didn't get to know them, and to my children. And it's strange. Instead of us feeling sad, we now are laughing about what Nani and Grampy would do, and my feelings about them are alive still. And I wear my parents' wedding rings on my heart every day. And
I love that.
It's just like they're close to me. I put my finger through the rings to remind myself that we're holding hands, and they're in my life. They're just in my life in a different way. But boy, did they prepare me well for life, and I want to do the same for my kids. You know, it's important.
Yes. Well, as we wrap up, a little love round. Word you love the most. What's a word you use a lot that you just love besides love, of course?
Empathy.
Okay, I like that. The season you love the most?
Fall.
Of course, me too. The TV series that you're loving right now?
Broadchurch. Chris and I are obsessed.
Tell me more. I don't
It's a
know about it.
BBC. Oh, it's so good. Olivia
Okay.
Colman, who won
Yeah.
BAFTA, and she won for The
Okay.
Favorite. She's an incredible actress, and it's
Okay.
an awesome show. It's
Okay.
really good.
What do you love the most about yourself?
I keep getting back up, baby.
You're standing.
Like I'm still standing.
You are still
And I'm still smiling.
Standing.
I guess you can
Yeah.
look at the world through really negative lenses if you want to, and
Yeah.
I have a reason to, and I don't. I think I'm just a serial optimist.
Yes, you certainly are.
And
How did it feel when your son, John Henry, walked you down the aisle?
You know, my dad wasn't there to do it,
Right.
but John was so proud, and he had tears in his eyes. And I have a picture of him smiling at me and just beaming. It was like a candid someone had taken.
Yeah.
And it just is such a reminder that was my dad smiling through John, and Johnny and I walking down the aisle. He was so excited to hand my hand to Chris, and Chris's parents are the best. So I have new parents too.
Yes.
And so that's a wonderful gift. I mean, there's so many gifts. You can look at life through that lens too. Like, what are the gifts you've gotten out of things? And I'm grateful for so many things. Gratitude.
Life is for the living, and that is the truth.
You can't do it over.
You
so
can't. There are no do-overs.
Mm-mm.
And so anyone, if you are in a relationship that is making you sad, think about that.
Talk about it.
There is love. There's always love. Love always wins.
Yes, love always does win.
And you thought this was it for you. You're done. And then in walks Chris. And you know what? Had you kept a dark energy, he would have never come your way. He would have never, ever entered your life.
I was
and
ready.
The lightness that you had and the kindness that you had was what brought him to you. So that's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So
That's well, I do think you attract energy,
You
and
do.
the energy you put off is the energy you get back. So
you too.
I'm really grateful his energy found mine, because he's the best thing that ever happened to me and my kids, for sure.
It's really
He
funny.
brings me so much joy.
He brings me joy, and I'm not even in your relationship.
It's a great story. Everybody always is like, "Tell me about it." Our second date was Paris, and that's like
right.
It was pretty amazing.
That's when you had me. I'm like, okay, now they're in Paris. Come on.
Yeah.
I will say it's really funny. When we got married, we had a minister and a rabbi. My husband's Jewish, I'm Christian, and the rabbi went rogue on us and started saying these vows that were not like till death do us part, which I have a little bit of a problem with, but whatever. Yeah. Anyway, all of a sudden he said to my husband had no idea this was coming. It was not his thought. And he was like, "I love your energy," and so he had to repeat after him. So it's like anytime someone says, "I love your energy," I always think that was like actually a marriage vow that we had. And it is the truth. My energy is something that my husband loves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you can love the energy that you create as a couple, that is what takes you places that you can't even imagine you'll go. Mm-hmm. And I think that energy is the keeper of kindness and happiness. So keep that energy and take it all the great places that you want to go. I can't thank you enough for being a champion of women. I've met the most glorious women through you. Thank you for being a champion of this woman, me.
You're a pretty amazing woman.
In the last 24 hours, I've received emails from you that I was copied on to other women in my life who you are now championing. I can't say that. And the fact that you take the time to do that is you have no interest in just speaking kindness to someone. It's not like you're trying to get a client. You are just trying to say, "I see you and you're doing a great job and your message landed on my heart. Thank you." And for that, I say kindness wins. Thank you, Kathleen Sarpy.
Thank you
for being here at the Love Speaks series podcast.
I am so honored. I'm a huge follower of your podcast.
Thank you for being all one of 10 of them.
Oh, I am a huge listener. Everybody listen to it. It's great people on it.
Thank you so much. And your Love Speaks, I didn't ask you 700 of the questions that I had prepared for, but I think our authentic conversation is way better. So thank you for being here. Thank you for leading with kindness. Thank you for all the tips that we will all now be rippling into the world and making the world a better place.
Well, thank you for speaking love.
Thank you.
I love you terribly.
Love you more. Bye. I have loved speaking with you today, and I want to speak with you more. So follow me on all of my social platforms at Live Love Speaks on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you want more stories like the stories we speak here on the Love Speaks series podcast, go to lovespeaks.com and pick up a copy of my new book, Speak. Love your story, your audience is waiting. To step up your speaking game and your human game. Check out my blog while you're there.
Sally Lou Loveman is a mom, speaker, author, former audience producer for The Oprah Winfrey Show, and founder of Love Speaks. Each week, Sally Lou and her crew have a conversation about how love speaks in their lives and how it can speak in yours. From kindness to composting, no topic is off limits. If you need a community to kickstart your heart, you need the Love Speaks series.
Thanks for listening. Your Love Speaks.